Slippage of drive. Number one is going to be the increased coefficient of friction if you go from rubber to ceramic. But we already talked about what some of the evidence is if you have slippage at your drive pulley. The glazing effect of the bottom cover of the belt and the condition of the actual lagging material itself, whether or not it's got a glaze going on it. Increased arc of contact. What do we mean by that? We talked about it earlier. How do you increase the arc of contact? Snub pulley. You go from 180 degrees to 210. I've even seen them up to 240 degree of wrap. It's going to increase your coefficient of friction. You got more surface area driving the belt, right? Check the take-up weight, essential with changes in belt specifications. Excessive crown on drive pulley. Anybody seen any excessive crowns? Any? What happens when you see an excessive crown?
I can't think of any system other than a hydraulic that can apply enough pressure to get a current modern day heavy duty belt to conform to a crown. Just don't have enough tension. So as a result of that, instead of working on the crown, then the belt will set up on the crown, and instead of driving full width of the pulley, now you're driving down the center of the pulley.
No.
So you have a reduced amount of contact.
And in those cases, if you're using a rubber lagging, the rubber lagging will conform and fatigue out right in the middle, and you're back to flat.
Yeah.
As a rule of thumb, really, in modern day conveyor systems, especially modern day belting, crown pulleys are passe. There's no call for them anymore. You don't really need it. They do more damage than good. It's kind of a silly way to straighten out a problem in a belt that needs to be straightened out in other methods. But they don't have a lot of purpose to them anymore.
It goes back to the cotton ply fabric days when they used to take 5 or 6 layers of fabric to do what 2 or 3 layers of fabric can do today, just because of the material content. And correct me if I'm wrong, being the international gods that you are in the belting world, but North America is about the only place that uses crown pulleys, as I understand it.
So you're saying it's overrated?
Absolutely. There's not even value in it.
The pulley manufacturers all make them. They like that.
Yeah.
One thing that we discovered, and this was years ago, working with UPSs and package handling peoples of the world, is if you don't have about 15 feet, 10 to 15 feet of free belt going into a crown pulley, it doesn't have any effect on the system or on the belt itself. So in a trough conveyor system, where do you have that? There's only one place that doesn't have some kind of contact that might approach that, and that'll be in the take-up. Sometimes in the tail. But basically, you know, there's no reason. Every time I say that, I get in trouble. But basically, there's no reason to have a crown pulley in a modern day troughed conveyor system. It doesn't serve any purpose. And it's just costing you extra, and it's putting more tension in the center of your belt. Trapezoidal seems to be, for light duty belts, seems to be the advantage. You keep the stress across the width of the belt. Most of your tracking is done out on the edge of the belt. I think if you go through UPS or a lot of the other facilities now that handle lightweight package handling, you'll find them using trapezoidal.
Take-up type or location. We talked earlier about wanting to be able to verify that the take-up's freely moving and it has a proper amount of weight on it. Freely moving is a little easier to verify than whether or not it has a proper amount of weight. But I have seen OEMs that come out with new structures where they might have a cantilever type take-up where the take-up's over here, there's a pivot point here, and there's a bucket that just goes like this, depending on where the pulley is, right? Kind of like a seesaw. It was so well engineered that at startup, the belt is going from no tension to getting loaded up. That thing jams up or goes up under tension. That bucket comes up and actually bangs into the belt. So I'm reminded of that when it says take up type or location. Just because it has shiny new paint on it doesn't mean it's well engineered. Those types of things you may want to be cognizant of when you're looking at the operation of it. Drive location. I think that we could get in a really stimulating conversation when we talk about center drives. I know that there are original equipment manufacturers out there that'll have telescoping radial stacker type units, and the drive system will be right in the middle of the belt. So you're pushing and pulling the belt at a very awkward location. That will have an effect on the performance value of the belt, and conversely with the splice too. Yes.
One of the
Daryl.
other ones that's really nasty is where they're building a stacker and they don't want to have the overhung load of the drive hanging out over the end of the stacker, so they'll put the drive at the tail. That necessitates having a screw take up at the head, and it's like pushing a rope. You know, that belt will never ever have the proper tension in it, and it'll be continuous as far as a tracking problem and a problem with slippage at the drive.
Here's different illustrations of lagging material. We have a sheet lag that would be either cold bonded or autoclaved onto a, that's flat. This is herringboned. Sometimes this type of material can be in a diamond pattern and it'll be in strips so that it can be put on while the pulley's actually in place. Then you have, there's walled-on slide lag that we were talking about earlier, and I think the illustration is that some of these pieces were missing. That's really hard on the belt because it's, you know, it's stretch compression all the way around the circumference of the belt.